Hello kitties, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know who I am and what I do, my name is Kira. I'm better known as Afro Kitty on social media, and I'm an artist that loves to talk about dolls, cartoons, and movies. And today's video is a little bit more serious since I want to discuss what's been happening lately in Puerto Rico with the passing of Hurricane Fiona and other situations that have been affecting the citizens here as well. Now, I don't want to be ignorant to the situations happening around me since I live here, and I wanted to be able to address this before making other videos that doesn't necessarily have to do with very serious situations in the world. Understanding the severity of our living situation here in Puerto Rico, so I just wanted to preface that and focus on that because I think that's more important. Yeah, so I'm gonna be talking about three things. I'm going to talk about Hurricane Fiona, the laws that permit US citizens to move to Puerto Rico to evade US taxes, and gentrifying poverty-stricken areas that leave a lot of native citizens homeless. And lastly, I want to discuss the way that these particular situations have been dealt with by the government and how social media's response towards this situation in particular. So let's get started. Now let's first talk about Hurricane Fiona. So Hurricane Fiona was a Category 1 hurricane that hit Puerto Rico on September 19th that left thousands of people homeless. A lot of people died as well by the flooding and also by the generators that were not used properly. And many animals have also died as well due to drowning. It was very unfortunate. And it left the entire island without water or light as of this video. Personally, I received light about a week ago, a few days ago, not gonna lie, with water. But I'm not sure if the entirety of Puerto Rico have water or light. Also, like I mentioned before, there was a lot of towns that were affected by flooding caused by the overflowing current of the rivers of neighboring areas that were more specifically the south areas. And not to mention that Puerto Rico's infrastructure was already vulnerable to begin with the passing of Hurricane Maria. That with this hurricane, it left even more destruction. Now, this situation is very similar to the horrific Hurricane Maria back in 2017, which was a Category 5 hurricane. And there was also an earthquake in 2020, and before Hurricane Maria, there was Hurricane Irma. Now, I'm not sure what category was Hurricane Irma, but it wasn't as strong as Hurricane Maria. Now, by the effects of Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria and the earthquakes from 2020, many of the south areas of Puerto Rico were left without shelter, many using blue tarps to cover the damages on their ceiling that to this day about 3,646 structures still have blue tarps covering their houses, and our own governor has yet to put an exact date for when these tarps will be fully eliminated and all of these houses' ceilings be fully, I'm not sure if the word is refurbished or I'm not sure if that's the right term for it, but fully fixed is what I'm trying to put out there. And Hurricane Maria happened 5 years ago. And this information that I found on the newspaper website, it's Nuevo Dia. This date that was set with this information was May 30 of 2022, which was exactly 4 months before Hurricane Fiona. So imagine how weak those infrastructures were, how weak those and unprotected those houses were. That's very, very scary. And overall, the situation at hand has been really, really stressful for everyone. And there wasn't a lot of help from our governor, Pierluisi, who in one moment denied humanitarian help, but later made a statement that to the public that we misinterpreted his speech. So what he stated here was, if you read precisely what I said, and I try to be very careful, what I said is that at this time, we prefer that no help comes from abroad that causes logistical problems in our main port in San Juan. I remember the congestions we had in the port of San Juan because very well intentioned help arrived, but without proper coordination. There were containers with all kinds of supplies, some were not claimed, and it was a bit of a mess. What I was referring to was the help that came from outside to avoid unnecessary congestions in our main port, to prevent well intentioned help from arriving later, but without coordination. I made that expression. I'm not referring to local nonprofits. If some misunderstood, then I'm sorry, but no, the other way around. The important thing is that we coordinate the response. So, like I mentioned before, many of the citizens have recently become homeless, and a lot of us have supplies and things that are necessary for our lives. So, if you're living outside of Puerto Rico and would like to support those without homes, there are non lucrative organizations to send resources and donations if you can. And another way you can help is by spreading awareness of the situations. I'll link some of these non lucrative organizations in the comments section, and I will also add an image with more information on where to add or send donations and contacts on the video. And lastly, I want to talk about social media's response to all of this situation. Let's define the two laws that are currently benefiting foreigners that move to Puerto Rico and invest in Puerto Rico. They buy buildings, they become richer and more wealthier. I've seen it more with US citizens that do this, not trying to like label only them, but the most foreigners that I've seen doing this are very wealthy US citizens. And the problem that I think a lot of people have is that you guys um the foreigners are taking areas that are more poor stricken, they're gentrifying those areas, and then they're making it inaccessible for the people that live there currently. And now they have to just move out and find another place to live, and that's not fair. It's the frustration and the sadness and the fear that we have. And I wanted to discuss a little bit about the law so you guys understand it a little bit. After this, I will highly recommend again to watch the documentary because it makes a lot more sense than what I'm providing here. So the two laws are Act 20 and Act 22. So, Act 20 is known as the Act to Promote the Exportation of Services, provides attractive tax incentives for companies that establish and expand their export services, businesses in the island. In addition, the law promotes investments on research and development and initiatives from the academic and private sectors by granting credits and exceptions for these activities. Furthermore, it helps to decrease operational and energy spending for companies moving to the island in order to help their operations remain profitable and efficient. And Act 22 seeks to attract new residents to Puerto Rico by providing a total exemption from Puerto Rico income taxes on all passive income realized or acquired after such individuals become bona fide residents of Puerto Rico. These relocations should result in new local investments in real estate, services, and other consumption products, and in capital injections to the Puerto Rico banking sector, all of which will accelerate the economy of the island. And I think one of the biggest examples of our time that recently, they're using all of these for their benefits is former YouTuber Vine star Logan Paul, who I think moved to Puerto Rico a while ago. I'm not sure where he lives. I don't care. All I know is that he's a good example for what's happening right now. And for social media, for everything that's been going on, I feel like the most attention we've been receiving, you guys, and the foreigners that I've seen videos of, they're complaining and they're just saying, oh, I'm just gonna get a plane ticket, move out, and then come back when everything's back to normal. And it's like we don't have the same rights. We don't have the same opportunities that you do, where whenever things get too hot for you and when things don't benefit you anymore, you have the right to just move out and then come back in when everything's right back in Puerto Rico. It's like there's this alienation from foreigners and people that live here, and they just live in this bubble where they're in a very wealthy area, very secure area, and they're very ignorant to what other people are going through as well. So there's not a lot of empathy and sympathy from what I've seen in videos, and then they just want to be ignorant about it, and that's the frustration and anger that we have, right? And I've seen a lot of people also complain about their vacations and their venues being destroyed because of the hurricane. And I feel like, again, you have every right to be upset. However, there's always a time and a place for these discussions, especially how a lot of people take it to social media to discuss about it. And I feel like that's just going to anger a lot of people, right? I feel like a lot of things should be personal, should be taken not personal, but should be taken private. That's not. I'm gonna rephrase that. Should be taken privately instead of putting on online. And I know that there's also that we're missing that connection between people because we've been in a pandemic for about 2.5 years, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like I get that, but we also have to understand what to talk about in public and what not to discuss in public because you don't know what kind of audience you might attract, and that's especially targeted on TikTok because most of these things and most of these interactions I've noticed were specifically on TikTok. So, lastly, as my opinion, um, the frustration, the fear, and the anger that many citizens have is how slowly but surely we won't have any place to live for ourselves that we can afford due to the many areas that are being gentrified and privatized. I'm not sure if that's the right term, privatized, but yeah. We also have not seen a lot of action being done by the government that is said to protect us and our rights, but so far it's been showing the opposite. Many of us, many of the wealthy men and women that decide to move here have shown nothing but selfish intentions and don't even bother to learn our language, the laws, the culture, and befriend the community and help the community when we need help. Just be a community. And it's not your job, of course, but it's like if you want to live here and you want to know us, you also have to understand the things that are affecting us as well and not to show your privilege because sometimes that's kind of like the friction and the tension that we got. And a lot of you guys, not like a lot of the foreigners are buying areas like buying land in areas close to the beach, and then they think that because they buy that area that part of the beach is private. That's not true. There's a law in Puerto Rico that says all beaches are public, so we also had that kind of problem here where you know not investors but people who own hotels, they've tried to build pools and build very very close to the beach, which is not that. I think it's illegal if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, thankfully there's been a lot of protests around it. A lot of our community have protested on it and we've won. And yes, I again, you can watch the documentary for more information. I highly suggest it because I'm just giving you like a very very small description of it. And I also wanted to add another point that does not necessarily have to do with Puerto Rico, but it does have to do with the way that a lot of us are using social media, especially a lot of people that, because I mentioned before, we kind of yearn for that connection, that sympathy, empathy with humanity, with other people, because of being enclosed in our home for many, many years, at least for 2 years, I think it was. And we're using TikTok as a diary. We're using it for more very, very personal things. And I feel like we should create a barrier with it because it can become very dangerous. And I'm mostly focusing on TikTok because a lot of that platform is filled with drama. It's filled with a lot of people just sharing very personal situations and then being upset because people comment on their personal life when they decide to share things on TikTok. And I think that platform in itself shouldn't be a place for you to share your outmost opinions. I mean, yes, you can talk about things, but you also have to understand that TikTok can get anything viral, and you don't know what could possibly make you viral. You really don't know. And it's like there's always a reaction to what you do. There's going to be people that like it, there's going to be people that don't like it, and you have to be careful with it. You're going to have to understand that whatever you post online will get people to talk about it either in a negative or positive. And it's something that we as a community need to be okay with or need to learn to be okay with and kind of detach from that because you know you don't know what another person's going through, and then there's like this black and white perspective on everything, which is also very scary when in reality we all have flaws. We're not perfect. We have gray areas. It's not like black or white. No, it's not like that. And I also personally believe that not everything should be online, not everything should be posted online, especially personal lives, because of how dangerous social media has become. I think being private is more it's better because you have more control of what to share, what not to share, especially if you have an audience and you become very, very popular. And there's also have to be a lot of boundaries when it comes to your relationship with your audience, because once you start allowing people to in your life in a inner more circle, then they just feel the need to know more about you, and it's just very dangerous. Just understand that, right? I just wanted to preface that. And yeah, a lot of people become even more braver online because, they're not being themselves. They're hiding in an account. That's also another thing. And I just feel like online there's not a lot of sympathy or empathy, and there's like that again, that black and white narrative, and it's not the case. So maybe I'll discuss this conversation, this online social media thing in more depth in another video, since I think it's really important to discuss social media and how harmful it could be, how awful it is nowadays. And hopefully, you guys can spread awareness of the situation. Again, I highly suggest you take a look at Bad Bunny's music video, documentary, and don't forget to support and follow all of the Latin creators who did all of their work, who took all their work to create that video, especially Bianca. She was the one that made the documentary, and I highly suggest you follow her. I think I have a picture of her in her social media, so you go and follow her because she does talk a lot about Puerto Rico and the situations that happen, either small or too big. She talks about it, so I'm here for it. And yeah, and make sure to support um, and check out the non lucrative organizations in the comment section and also the ones I posted on the video. And yeah, I think I'll see you in the next one. Bye.